Breaking news for the Chicago Bears that just came out, and I'm giving my live reaction as I just got the news, which is defensive coordinator Chuck Pagano is officially retiring from coaching, and so the Bears will not have a Chuck Pagano as their defense coordinator, obviously, moving forward. And also, we've got another big piece of news, which is that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both expected to return to the Chicago Bears in 2021. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about the Bears. So if you are a Bears fan, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Just because the season's over, as you can tell, that doesn't mean the videos are stopping, because there's plenty of news like this one that I'm going to be giving my reaction to and talking about pretty much all offseason. So make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Make sure to go ahead and turn on the bell icon to be notified every time I drop a new video. And make sure you're following me on all my social media, guys. I got this information off Twitter. You need to be following me on there. Instagram as well. Do that. Let's get into it. So let me start by saying that this news isn't like official confirmed. I didn't, see it from Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or all the big news reporters. It's really from, the Bears news reporters. I think it was Dan Weeder who broke this news as well. And then the Chuck Pagano news. So let's talk about the first Chuck Pagano news and then talk about Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. And forgive me if my thoughts are a little scrambled and everything's not streamlined, because I'm literally going live right after, or making a video right after, and giving you guys my live reaction after I see this news. Okay, so that's the reason why. Let's start with Chuck Pagano. And when I saw the news about Chuck Pagano, first thoughts was, yeah, I saw it coming. You knew the writing on the wall with Chuck Pagano after this season, in which he was pretty much going to be the scapegoat, if you will, and maybe deservedly so. The Chicago Bears defense was not elite this season, especially in the second half of the year, and we still had a large majority of the same players that Vic Fangio had, and so that is an indictment on Chuck Pagano. And so I knew that Chuck Pagano was going to get canned. I told you guys that I was the most confident about Chuck Pagano not returning, and lo and behold, I believe Chuck Pagano knew that, and so he decided to just step away instead of having the humiliation of getting fired. And so that's what I believe happened. And if he had decided to continue coaching, I believe he would have gotten fired, because you can't have a mediocre season like that and not make any changes. You got to make some changes, right? Like even the Seahawks, they fired their offense coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, okay? And they had a 12-4 season or something like that, okay? So you have to have some sort of a change. And Chuck Pagano was the change. Now, I wish Coach Pagano the best of luck in retirement, or if he decides to come back to coaching for another team, but we needed to make this change. As far as who will be his replacement, I'll make a different video talking about who I feel like would be a great fit. And before you guys start throwing out Robert Saleh or Brandon Staley, keep in mind these guys are already defense coordinators looking to get head coaching gigs. So they're not going to make a lateral move. They're going to try to make a move upward like any normal person would, which is get a promotion. So those guys aren't going to be available. They're looking for head coaching jobs. All right. So I'll make a separate video about that. Let's talk about Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. All right. So here's where I'm at with the Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace news. And again, this is reported by Dan Weeder. Maybe it's confirmed, maybe it's not, but he is saying that league sources tell him that they are coming back. And I got to tell you, I'm a little surprised, but not too much. And you will notice that the videos leading up to this one, every time you guys would ask me about Nagy and Pace, and whenever I would have to talk about it, I was very unsure. And I'm usually not that type. Like, I usually have, kind of a set way of how I feel about certain things. This one I was really torn on. And remember, I always tell you about the gray area, right? It doesn't have to be white or black. It could be a gray area. This is kind of where I was with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, because it's not that I'm a huge fan of these guys, but also because of the fact that I do not want to create a culture in Chicago where you literally have a new staff every 2-3 years and then they get canned, right? It's like hire a GM, a coach, okay, for 2 years, and then they're not winning the Super Bowl, oh, get them out. Hire coach, GM, get them out. So it's like, I don't want to create this cycle. and I'm not going to call anybody out, but there's been a ton of Bears fans, a ton of you guys that all hate Nagy, all hate Pace. They want the entire thing scrapped. And I'm over here saying, listen, that's the problem sometimes, which is if you create this culture, you won't be able to get the best talent because the coaches, the GMs, they'll see, listen, you're saying it's a 5-year deal, but you can't people in 2 to 3 years. So what's really the issue here? Why would I go there when I go to another team where they'll probably keep me for 4 or 5 years? So that's been the reason I've been struggling. It's not because I'm a fan of Nagy. I hate his offense. It's not because I'm a fan of Pace. He's missed on a ton of draft picks. It's because I want to have a culture in place and stability in place in a way. Now, here's the real reason I believe they got retained. This year's a wash. Now, I know you don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that. It sounds awful. And I'm not saying we're tanking. The Bears can't. Well, they could tank, but I'm not saying they're tanking. Here's what I am saying. I believe the McCaskies looked at this next coming season and they said, we don't have a high draft pick this year. Salary cap situation is not that great. Even if I hire a new GM and coach, they won't be able to do much this first season. Like, there are no realistic paths outside of a mega trade for Deshaun Watson or a Stafford or something like that. There are no realistic paths to contention in 2021. So if that's the case, why not just keep Nagy and Pace for an extra year? Ryan Pace's contract is up after the season. And Matt Nagy's, I believe, is over in 2023. But obviously, you want as least amount of years as possible on his contract before you let him go as well. Why not keep them for an additional year? If we do awful, get a high draft pick. If we do great, good, we can talk about the progress. And then, if they don't do well, which, why would we think otherwise, right? They've been mediocre. Let's say they do mediocre again, then you just can them. And now in 2022, maybe you do have a high draft pick. Now you have cap space. Now you have more things for a new GM coach to work with. That's kind of the thinking here. I believe the McCaskies had. I know a lot of you guys are going to say they're cheap, they're this and that, they like Pace. Could be. I don't know. I don't know the McCaskies. I wish I did. I had initially thought maybe they would have moved Ryan Pace to a different position and then hired a GM. That way they don't have to fire him. So I will say this. I told you guys this going into the offseason. When you have a resume like, for instance, Nagy does, Coach of the Year, never missed the playoffs, or I should say never missed the playoffs, never have a losing record, make the playoffs 2 out of your first 3 years. Like, it's still a decent resume. His offense has been garbage, and a lot of it is because of the defense. But again, he's the head coach. He was able to rally the team back from 6 straight losses. But then again, why should he have lost 6 straight games? So you can make the argument any which way. At the end of the day, people only care about your resume. His resume was solid. Ryan Pace, he's had some, obviously, misses. We don't need to recap on Mitch Trubisky, but he's had some hits. Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, Roquan Smith. So there's been guys that Ryan Pace has done good on. Now, will the Bears pick a quarterback this year? And do you really want Ryan Pace to be that guy? Probably not. But it seems like he is going to be here, be back in Chicago. So I believe those are the reasons why the McCaskies brought him back. It's pretty much 1 year for them, and then I think they get canned because really 2021, Bears can't do much. Now, as far as Mitchell Trubisky, what happens to Mitch? Well, this is where I'm really torn as well. I really don't have a good hunch of what happens with Mitch. My initial thoughts were if Nagy and Pace are coming back, and remember I told you guys this. I said, you can't fire Pace and keep Nagy. You can't fire Nagy, keep Pace. You got to keep both or get rid of both. They're a package. They came together. They stay together. And that looks like it's what's going to end up happening. So remember, I told you guys that, okay? Now, Mitch is different. Mitch is on the other side. Now, again, Pace drafted Mitch. But with Mitch, I could have seen a situation where if Pace and Nagy get canned, the Bears choose to keep Mitch and let the new GM coach decide what they want to do. And now in this situation, if you're keeping Pace and Nagy, maybe now they decide, okay, we got to move off of Mitch. We got to go do something else. But the big question is, will the McCaskies let Ryan Pace mortgage more of the future, more draft picks, whatever, to get a quarterback, right? Will the McCaskies let him do that to get a Deshaun Watson or to trade up in the draft? So that part's going to be interesting, because if he's only here for an additional year, why let him blow through our whole draft capital and our salary cap? So to me, that part is, it's hard to see. So as far as Mitch, again, I'm torn, more leaning towards Mitch probably not being with the Bears, just because I think it would have been higher if there was no Nagy and there was no Pace. But who knows? He is still, I believe, the best option the Bears have if we just look at the free agency market and draft, if we're not looking at trades. So that's kind of where I'm at, folks. I'll make a ton of videos about this news, so look out for that. But again, make sure to go ahead and subscribe as always. Thanks for watching.